Au revoir.
I love it. I love it.
Craig, you stupid, brother.
Drop it.
What up, world? When you hear the glass breaks, you know it's time for another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast. Welcome back to the program. Of course, it's your man, Darian D.H. Williams, and my partner in crime, my main Apple Dapple, Darren Midget, best known as D-Mitty. D-Mitty, what's up, bro?
Feeling good, feeling great. King, how you been, man?
Man, I'm feeling good, bro. 4-1. I mean, I never expected to be here, bro. Like what's that about?
Man, listen, man. The streets is chirping, man. The commanders out here raising hell, and it couldn't get any better, brother. Couldn't get
Hey,
any better.
man, you know, it can get better if we're playing a game in February, but we have a long time for that. We have to wait for that. And we won't jump the gun. But what we will do, we'll remind you that if you're watching this means you're friends of the show, and we appreciate you for tuning in. Of course, if you're new here, we want to make sure that you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. And if you feel so inclined to leave us a 5-star review, you can get your 5 seconds of fame. That's it. That's all. Also, go ahead and hit the notification bell so you know every time when the glass breaks and you'll be able to get ready for another episode. Also, if you'd like to advertise here on this program, we'll be talking about you right now. But until then, the space is filled with random banter about nothing. Isn't that right, D-Mitty?
As always.
Hey, man, of course we love it, man. Of course you want to advertise the show, man. Just definitely reach out. So, D-Mitty, guess what, man? The Commanders have been rolling. We've been able to have great guests on the program. Great guests. You know, illustrious guests, as you know, my other favorite podcast say, illustrious guests. You know what I'm saying? But we found another illustrious guest here. And this has been in the works for a while. I call it on this show, so I guess he decided to return the favor for me. Our guest today is the host of the self-titled afternoon drive program, The Hoffman Show, on the Team 980, and co-host of the Take Command podcast with Logan Paulson. We welcome the DMV's most thorough media members. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Craig Hoffman. Craig, welcome to the program, my brother.
Appreciate you, DH. Appreciate you, Mitty. And that's one way to introduce me. You could also say someone who also spends his days bantering about nothing.
Hey, look, you get the drive time in the evening, man. When I get stuck in traffic, I get to listen to you and calling on your show.
Hey,
man.
look, man, but if you listen to the show, you know we also say, hey, if you want to advertise on the show, you can, because we steal from EJ on TNT. Brought to you by
Nobody.
Brought to you by nobody.
Hey, man, that's a great show to model after, because they just been doing it for years. And D-Mitty, I don't know, man. Do you get a chance to call in on Craig's show, man?
Man, I've called him a lot, man. And Craig, he gets so many calls. I'm pretty sure he doesn't remember this, because this is staying in my brain, because it was a conversation about Brock Purdy. And I was really high on Brock Purdy, and Craig made me feel like the most novice fan ever, when he just kind of like just shot me down with everything that he knew about Brock Purdy. And I went back to my drawing board of fandom and was like, yep, Brock Purdy is not that good.
Well, you got the last laugh there, because Brock Purdy through like 2 or 3 weeks this year looked like he might be in the top 3 of the MVP conversation. So what do I know? Maybe I should just, if Kyle Shanahan says so, that's my new philosophy on that. Oh, Kyle drafted him? Okay, yeah. I don't know. I've never heard of him before, but he's probably good.
Not Kyle being like Stone Cold. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Kyle
or maybe, I don't know, Adam Peters. Maybe that guy has a clue.
Right. Hey, they know a few things, and they're thorough. And just like them being thorough, Craig get thorough too, man. I wanted to bring you on the program because, brother, this has been in the works for a while. And I mean, I had to get you on because, I mean, you're in the building yesterday as we smoked I will go out on a limb and say we smoked the Browns. First of all, talk about the atmosphere in the building. The first home game back after the primetime game and going out west. What did the vibe feel like in the building, Craig?
I'll tell you a funny story that I haven't told yet because I forgot to do it during the post game, and
Breaking news, baby.
We're doing this before my show starts at 4:00.
Yes, sir.
So I'm so used to after games at FedEx / now Northwest Stadium, just walking out of the building into silence, or away fans like kind of taunting Commanders fans because there haven't been a whole lot of wins. And even the win over the Giants earlier this year, everyone's kind of like, okay, it was the Giants. They didn't have a kicker. Like, how excited are we really going to get? And all of a sudden I walk out of the silence of the press box and there are just people cheering. And I literally go, wait, what? Huh? What? There's people that care in burgundy and gold about a win. And it was just jarring to be like, oh, this is atmosphere. This is good. People are excited. And I can't imagine what it would be like if that happens after a game where it's a close game at the end. There's a ton of people that left because they're like, we got this in the bag. Jaden's been yanked. What am I going to sit here and just wait more traffic for? I can go home and catch the late games. So I thought that was really cool to see. I still think there's more levels to go for the fans to get back. I don't know that it's the best crowd I've ever seen at that stadium. That was probably like the Packers playoff game before that went sideways in 2015. That was a damn good crowd.
Yeah.
But since then, that was probably the best crowd I've seen. But knowing that it can get even more raucous, knowing that there are levels to it, but still seeing way more burgundy than I'm used to, way more excitement, and people losing their minds on like the Jaden Diami touchdown. And that moment where like you go outside this soundproof press box and you hear people in the concourse going nuts after a game. That was cool. More, please.
Man, Craig, you know we love when the Tar Heel gets some action. You know, you see the Tar Heel in the background. You know we love that. Still sad about Sam, but it's okay. We got Jaden. It's all right. No worries. No,
one for two ain't bad or something like
right,
that.
Right. Hey, Craig, man, look, you take calls every day on your afternoon drive program, the Hoffman Show. And I know you've been hearing this for the past few years. The fan base is really waiting to bubble. And even since the season has started with adding Jaden to the mix, from your perspective, how excited is this fan base, especially right now with us being 4-1 in a position that I don't even think the fandom of fan expected them to be where they are right now?
I'm gonna be honest. I still feel like the fan base feels scared. Like I still don't get the sense that there is this breakthrough moment yet. Like Monday night, there was a breakthrough moment, but I like if they go out and they beat Baltimore, I think people believe. And frankly, if they compete with Baltimore and then go wax Carolina, like I think that will feel very different than what just happened. People know Cleveland's good. And if we're being honest, the 4 teams they beat probably aren't going to the playoffs. Like Cincinnati's offense is really, really good, but their defense has been a disaster. And how excited are you going to get about beating a team that is now 1-4? And I'm not saying that's necessarily how I feel because I'm watching the tape. This is a good football team. They're playing really well. But I think this fan base has been scarred so many times. And there were enough people that were, reserved enough about like the Dan Quinn hire, for instance. There are obviously a lot of scarring from Robert. And I don't think Robert and Jaden are similar in a lot of really important ways. They're both real fast. They can run great and they got strong arms and all that stuff. But the way they make decisions, the way they handle themselves, the way they study, the way they prepare, very, very different and advantage Jaden. But I still think that scarring is real. And so I think that there still is a level that I hope we see. Like selfishly, I hope we get it because like more people being excited or more people listening to the radio, and that's good for ratings. And then maybe the segments will be sponsored by somebody. But at the end of the day, like I still think that there is a huge cautious optimism that people are still dipping their toe in the water. And obviously Baltimore is the biggest test they've had. So perhaps that will be the breakthrough moment. But I'm kind of surprised that there's not more buzz. And I would say like the buzz is there nationally. You got Orlovsky like, going nuts on every ESPN show. And he was, he and I have texted like he was on Jaden, he thought he was the best quarterback in the draft. And so he's very excited to look very right at this point, obviously. But I think that there's more buzz nationally about this team than there is locally, which goes back to all the reasons I just talked about.
No.
Do you guys agree with that, by the way? Like, I don't know.
Oh,
How does it feel in your comment sections and your everything?
And that's exactly what I'm glad you said that though, Craig, because I was literally about to hit on that because I was the fan last year. I don't know about. I can't speak for no one else. When the team threw an interception, the game was over with. Right? It
Yeah.
was almost like, okay, well, now they can't bounce back. So if you could, I guess, follow up with where I'm going with this at, because when Jaden threw that interception in the red zone, it was certain things that happened after that as well, like the Terry McLaurin fumble, the Terry McLaurin missed touchdown, and it almost seemed like in years past those things made fans like me feel like, hey man, we're not going to get over this hump. This is going to hold us back. Do you feel like the coaching staff has corrected those things and the players on the team have corrected those things, or do you feel like maybe this game here was just a get right game for Washington to stay, I guess, where they are right now? If that all
Yeah,
makes
no, I think I get what you're saying, and I think the answer is some of both. It should be said, boys, the Browns suck. That team is
Stink.
awful. That offense is literally offensive, like to NFL football. Stefanski calling plays that they got a different OC. He's the play caller. They're not on the same page. I don't know what page they should be on because Deshaun's abysmal. Logan pointed this out on the post game yesterday. The Commanders have struggled all year with runs with pullers on it, and they didn't run one until the third quarter, and they got 35 yards on it. And it's like, why didn't you run that the second play of the game? What are you doing? So there's just a general incompetence that when you make mistakes against an offense that's that bad, you can overcome them. I'm not gonna lie. When Jaden threw that red zone interception, part of me was like, ooh, opportunity for a safety because Deshaun's terrible and he could do something dumb. So like there is a different level of, or a different margin for error against the team that's that bad. However, when we look at it through the Washington lens, this team from a mentality standpoint is way different. They don't freak out when they make mistakes. Yeah. They're very, very steady. And that starts with Dan. It goes to Jaden. And when your quarterback and your head coach are just here and they're like, hey, let's address it. Dan's got Tell the Truth Mondays, which we stole as a segment idea, sponsored by nobody. But he's got that like, hey, no matter if we win, we lose, like we're going to go through the same process every single week. Jaden, Mark Schlereth came on with me last week and told a great story of how Cliff relayed this to him when they were out in Arizona, because they spent the whole week out there, right? They moved their whole operation. And it'd be real easy for Jaden to be like, I'm not getting up at 5:30 Pacific time. Like, I'm going to sleep in a little bit. Like, I'm staying in a hotel. It's in my routine's going to be a little bit different. Nope. Cliff gets in there in his makeshift office at the same time he usually does. And who pops into the same exact time he does in Ashburn? Jaden Daniels. Yeah. So week in, week out. That's after the Monday Nighter, by the way, where he's now the talk of the NFL, right? Same thing every single week. And so when your process is the same, I've been a process guy forever. I talk about it. It's really hard to talk about when they're losing because nobody cares. They just want to see wins. But you see now, if you want to keep winning, you have to have the same process that got you here. And because this team does that, because they are solutions oriented, because they are always going to work together and they're very together and they believe in what they're doing, it allows them to bounce back and recover from mistakes. And there's an accountability like, hey, offense, you messed up. Defense, we're going to go make a play. Hey, defense, y'all gave up a touchdown. Don't worry about it. We got you. And I think that togetherness and that mentality and all this stuff that Quinn preaches behind the scenes that a lot of people are like, okay, cool. That's neat and makes you feel good in June. Talk to me in September. Well, we're in October. They're 4-1. And what's up with it now?
Right. And just the same way Craig said, man, keeping the process on a weekly basis. Nothing changes. Just like this, youtube.com/Breaking Command Pod. That won't change. Every week we'll be here dropping brand new content, bringing the heat, because that's what we do. And Craig, speaking to that coaching staff, man, one thing I've seen, and I hate to compare. The only thing I will say this, EB said one quote that I'll never forget: comparison is the thief of joy. But I will compare this coaching staff to last year's
not when
staff.
you're on the good side of the comparison. It's
exactly.
Joyous now.
Right. Oh, it feels great, man. No, I would say this, man. It feels like this coaching staff is way different from the way they did things in previous years. Last year, it seems like issues will be issues for 2 and 3 weeks. It feels like this year we have an issue one week, the issue's gone the next week, right? They fixed issues that happened in week 1 against Tampa and came out the following week and capitalized against the Giants. They couldn't score against the Giants. Now they can't stop scoring weeks after that. Talk about the impact of this coaching staff, Dan Quinn putting these guys together and putting this coaching staff together and how they've affected the team's play every week.
I could talk about this for literally hours, so I will
Do
try
it.
my best to keep it. So at least let's see, what time I gotta leave? Like, if I don't leave by 3:30, that would be bad for the show at 4. It's 2:08. Okay. I think there's a lot of meat on the bone here to talk about. It starts with living in reality versus chasing narratives. And I was trying to I was circling around this point the entirety of the end of Rivera's tenure, talking about something is just not adding up. Like he is so full of it on so many levels. Sorry to be that blunt. Sorry, Ron. Actually, I'm not that sorry. Should have been better. He was so full of it on so many levels where it's just like, does this dude watching the same games I am? And then Ben Standig wrote a piece at the end of his tenure about him kind of being way too focused on narratives in the press conferences. And I was like, yes, that is the thing. Like he's a narrative chaser. He's not a reality liver. And Dan and Cliff and Joe are guys that live in reality. Like the number of times those three at the podium this year have been like, yeah, no, that's a good question. When we ask about issues that the team has, or the beat guys ask about the issues the team has, they're like, no, that's a good question. We're working on it. And they might not give you the answer because they don't want the opponents to have it, but like they acknowledge there's a problem because we're all watching the same game. And I think often like coaches have an arrogance about them where they think the rest of us are dumb. And I'm like, I've been covering the NFL for over 10 years at this point. I don't know as much as you do, but I don't know nothing. So don't lie to me. Don't tell me the things I see on tape. And like, I work with smart people. I work with Logan Paulson, who played in the league for 10 years. Like, you're going to tell me he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? And we're talking about this and saying it's an issue. So that's not to say like we in the media get everything right, but the point is here that these guys live in reality. And so they take on issues head on. They're attacking actual problems, trying to find actual solutions, not the appearances of them, because they know the results will be the ultimate truth as opposed to whatever they go up and say. I'd say the other biggest part of that is they want to get it right, not be right. And if all of a sudden the thing that they believed in turns out not to be the correct solution, but they find something else, they don't care. And like, I don't know what happened to Eric Bieniemy, former star running back, to lean into the pass game to the level he did. But like, he was so determined to be right on his terms that he just absolutely ignored every other factor. And again, I would like the comment section to note that DH asked me about this. This is not me going back digging up old stuff because I already know that that's going to happen. So you can direct your comments at him. It's good for the algorithm. Leave lots of comments. But like, he committed, he did it what I would call an unprofessional coaching job. It was that bad to take a quarterback who has a sack problem, drop him back in true drop back pass behind a slightly below average talent offensive line. And you see this year when you take that, mostly that same line, Biotish is a significant upgrade at center. So let's say they're slightly above average or maybe even at average talent. But Wiley, same dude, not giving up a bunch of sacks this year. You want to know why? Because they don't leave him one-on-one all the time, 30 times a game. And so they run the football. They get out in space. They let him go out and do the thing he's good at because he's a great athlete for an offensive lineman. And so I think that the play calling, it's just way smarter. Obviously, the quarterback matters a ton. Like if Sam Howell was running this offense, he would be playing way better than he did last year, but he would not be playing close to what Jaden Daniels is. Right. Jaden's on a different level. And so all of those things come together, but it starts with living in reality. It then goes to trying to find out what is right as opposed to being right yourself on your initial theory of the case. And then the general atmosphere of leadership. I mean, how often has Terry McLaurin ever not been the guy? And John Allen, same thing, where they've been leaders their entire career from the time that they're rookies. They don't have to be anymore. And that's not to say those guys are bad leaders, but like Bobby Wagner's going to the Hall of Fame and has more life experience. Like Terry's never been on a good football team. So how is he supposed to be like, oh, this is what it looks like? So you have guys that have rings. You have guys that have been on winners. You have guys that have been to the playoffs, guys that can be like, hey, no, this is how we do it. And there's a different level of buy-in and a different level of responsibility that's being shouldered in the right places. And all of that adds up to that atmosphere of accountability that ultimately lets them solve problems. And I would say the last piece real quick is Jaden. Jaden specifically is growing at such a rate that I cannot remember a player ever, especially a quarterback ever, just getting this much better week over week. I actually, tomorrow during the Take Command film review, I'm going to go out of my way to point out some mistakes he made so that not to be like, hey, this is where I want to be critical. It's like, these are going to be the touchdowns next week because that's how it works. He makes a mistake, he misses something, then the next week he does it at an exceptionally high level.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before you go, D-Mitty, I just want to remind everybody, follow Craig Hoffman on X. Do it right now, okay? And then once you finish following him on X, you follow us on X at Breaking Command Pod. Make sure you guys do that. Craig, you mentioned something. You mentioned the coaching staff, right? It feels like this year, along with the impact of ownership, man, the coaching staff, like I was one of the guys. I ain't gonna fake. I was one of the guys that was kind of like, Dan Quinn. Okay, not my first choice. But I don't get paid to make those decisions, so I'm just gonna roll with it. I've been here every other year. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Just roll with it.
Right.
And then he gets hired, and then just the impact that he has, the way he talks with you guys on the media, it comes through through us, through video, and just the sound. He's definitely a positive guy. He definitely seems like he galvanized the guys, and that's showing here 5 weeks into the regular season. We're 4-1, and I mean, fans want to run through a wall for him. Like, I have about 2 plays left in these knees. If I could get 2 of them under Dan Quinn, I would definitely use.
You might find a third play.
Hey, I might be able to get one. And the way they scheme up this offense, Cliff might have something for me. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But with this coaching staff being put together, man, it just feels like they want it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, no,
year,
it does.
It didn't feel like it last year.
Yeah, like, and right? It goes back to what I was just saying. Like, what's it that they want? Do they want it to show like, oh, I'm the most prolific offensive coordinator, or I'm the smartest head coach, or like I'm the whatever, or like, do I want to win? Like, these dudes want to win. And Cliff specifically is like, I don't really care about my next head coaching job. He might have to care sooner rather than later, the way this is going. And we'll see. If I'm him, like, I'm probably staying a couple years. Like, I'm in no rush. I'm learning a lot. I'm having a great time with Jaden. I want to see if we can compete for a championship. Like, but then again, and by the way, he's getting paid by the Arizona Cardinals till 2027. So he's in good shape financially, as if he wasn't already, but like he's in currently actively earning good shape financially on that front. So I think that the thing with this staff that sticks out to me, on top of what you highlighted, DH, is they're phenomenal teachers. And it was very, very clear to me last year that the staff was not good teachers. And I care about this a lot. For those that don't know, like, I also am a fitness coach. Like, I teach people and I'm a performance coach in that way. And I care a lot about that craft, the ability to get people to do the thing physically that you want them to do. For me, it's certain drills or weightlifting or whatever. And I want to make sure they can do it effectively so they get the best results. And they also do it safely, because, lifting a lot of weight can be dangerous. So, like, let's make sure that we're good on all that. And I care about the craft of teaching and coaching a lot. And people, I think at times I brought that up last year. And again, it's like, oh, the scheme, the this, the that. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what the scheme is. Like, these guys don't know what they're doing. And I go back to training camp last year, and it's like EB's yelling at everybody. And at the time, we're like, oh, this is great. He's holding them accountable. Turns out they weren't very good teachers, and nobody had a clue what they were supposed to be doing. And I was actually talking with a player in the locker room yesterday about this, and Cliff doing like 3 walkthroughs a day. And he's like, the player was like, I'm a visual learner. And so to sit in the classroom for an hour, like, there's only so much I get out of that. Like, yeah, it's up there, but I need to like see it and do it. So really, I guess he would be an experiential learner, right? Yeah. And so it's not just hearing it, auditory learner, visual, see it. Can I see it and then do it? Like, he is a person who has to go out and do it on the field. And he said that when they get out on the field in those walkthroughs, not in a full practice, but in walkthrough, there isn't a expectation that it's perfect. And so they go out and they take what they learned in the classroom and they try to do it on the field. And if they make mistakes, it's like, oh no, I want you here. But they're going slow. That's the point of being out there. And these guys then have it. And this offense is so detailed up. And the defense is getting better too. Like, they're doing a great job on that side of the ball. And you're seeing guys like BSJ. And I could tell a quick story on the defensive side in a second. Benjamin told me in the spring. But like, they're so detail oriented. They know exactly where they're going to be. And it helps the execution, right? Because if Cliff tells you, hey, line up on the inside edge of the numbers, he's telling you for a reason. He didn't just decide to put someone there. He's trying to create a certain amount of space. And the plays work better when guys do stuff right. And so you're seeing a high level execution. And on the defensive side, Benjamin told me in the spring, he's like, last year we had to worry about everything. They were so unclear with what we were supposed to be doing. And so if I had a deep third, I was also worried about the comeback, because if I gave up the comeback, they'd yell at me. And so this year it's like, hey man, don't give up the go ball, or don't give up the in breaker, or don't give up the comeback, because maybe they want you to jump the comeback because you have safety help over the top. Yeah. And so you want to know how DQ and Joe Witt have had so many, interceptions over the years? Like, they let their corners jump stuff because they tell them, you are not responsible for getting beat deep in a certain coverage. Right. And so that clarity of, you are responsible for this, you are not responsible for that, he's responsible. Or, hey, if we get beat on a certain route combination, that's on the call. That's on me. And how many times have Joe Witten in his pressers this year been like, that was just a bad call. Like, I got beat. That's on me. And that accountability to make sure the players know, hey, we might have given up something, but I did my job, means that the next time they'll do the right thing again, and the result might be different. Again, process over result, and we're seeing the results.
Absolutely, man. Hey, man, that's some good stuff too, Craig. Because I was thinking about something else when you was talking about how the defense played last year and what Benjamin St. Just said to you as far as what was the difference. It kind of lead me to another bone I got to pick with you too, man. You had a comment or something you said about a certain defensive player. And him possibly not making the team, or him possibly being traded, and he moved to defensive end. And to get to that defensive player, his name is Jamin Davis, and I'm a Jamin Davis truther. So do you still feel like he may be one of those guys that may be, I guess, like a trade piece, or not even a trade piece, but he may not last as long on this particular roster?
So I am actually very curious for the next 2 weeks of Jamin Davis's Commanders career, because they activated the practice window on F.A. Obata, and somebody's got to go in that room if F.A. gets activated. And Jamin has been the guy that's kind of played the least. And I don't think they're cutting John Baptiste. I guess they could, and like, hey, hope he's a 7th round pick, and hopefully we can get him back in the practice squad, and we'll protect him, and all this roster mechanic stuff that nobody cares about unless their guy gets signed. Then they want to know all the details. But I'm very curious, because like, I will give Jamin all the credit in the world. And by the way, it should be said, like, I was kind of surprised that they went and signed Bobby Wagner, for instance, because I thought Jamin played well at the end of last year. Now, clearly they were correct on that. I'm surprised that they made the move they did with him to defensive end, because you would think that he would have shown maybe more at times to do that. But, and like the idea that they will look at him and be like, yeah, he can be Micah Parsons 2.0. I think they know he's not going to be that. But like the fact that they went through with the experiment, and then you have to credit Jamin for turning the first couple of weeks of that experiment to being not that great to like, no, this dude belongs on the team. And that's why I always try to say, like, when we're in training camp, when we're in the spring, these are ongoing evaluations. Nothing is final. You do your roster projections and say, hey, this is probably going to change in a couple of weeks, which is why we do them every couple of weeks. That and the 3 hours in August tend to not fill themselves on the radio. And that's a good way to fill 2 segments. But I do think that for Jamin, like, he deserves a lot of credit no matter how this goes. He has done a good job. He plays really hard. He's a great teammate. There's so much that I can say positively, but there's also 53 roster spots, and F.A. Obata provides them some positional flexibility because he can play a little bit inside. He can play a little bit outside. He's a bigger body. They can probably trust him more to do some of the stuff that Jamin is still learning. I would hope that unless Jamin gets signed to an active roster, if they wind up trying to get into the practice squad, he winds up there and he can continue to learn. And I would think he would want that. Like, I don't think he's going to go sign on someone else's practice squad. And I don't know that they're going to cut him, by the way. I don't know that he's going to be the guy. But as they make room for Jordan McGee, as they make room for F.A. Obata, they already obviously brought Marcus on, and they currently have, I guess, the 4 quarterbacks. I'm guessing they'll probably cut Hartman this week and then bring him back on the practice squad. Like, I'm very curious to see how they manage this roster, because Jamin deserves a lot of credit. And he's embraced his role, been a great teammate, played on special teams, and done all the things that he's been asked to do. And that's really all he can do to try to continue to learn. And then hopefully, whether it's here or somewhere else in the future at defensive end, I hope he pops and has another 5-6 years at least on his career.
Hey, D Mitty may have had a bone to pick with you, but I don't have any bones to pick, because I'm gonna tell you what, I trust Adam Peters, man. They've done a remarkable job with building this roster and like really flipping the field, for lack of a better word, man. Like, with getting new guys in, and then getting a particular type of player that I didn't kind of know what it was. Like, we talked in the offseason where we wasn't sure what kind of team we were going to be, right? We wasn't sure what kind of offense we were going to run. We weren't sure what kind of defense we we're going to play. Now we see that they're violent on defense. In the past couple of weeks, they've stepped that up. They're violent on defense. Luvu looks like Superfly Jimmy Snooker the way he flies around. And yes, because it's Polynesian. I'm going to say it. I don't care. I said that. Let me take that. But
hey, and Payne and Allen out there playing rock, paper, scissors to see who's going to stay on the field.
A lot of controversy with that, by the way. They both said they lost.
What's up with the rule? Like, look, first of all, hey, look, you can tell me, ego, Tigo, saying cover 3, rank, like all that stuff, but you don't know if that paper, paper beats route, bro. Like, you don't know that.
I think what happened is John seems to think Duran threw something different down.
Mm.
And I think that's where maybe he looked down, he saw paper, he thought it was rock, and I'm like, how big is Duran's hand? What
Cause,
are we?
right. Because it's about timing too, right? Because like if
Yeah.
you're all not going paper rock scissors, and they might not have win shoot. You know what I'm saying? Like paper rock scissors
Oh,
shoot.
that's a good one. That's a good one because if he went rock paper scissors and he's still here on scissors, and then he went here on shoot, DH, I think you might have just solved it.
That's what
I gotta
it
call.
is.
I gotta call Nikki Javala because we've been on this.
Tell her, man. Both of y'all can come back and talk about it, man. But
That's good producing right there. That's well done.
Hey, that's how we do it.
I got respect for that.
Hey, Craig, look, man, I ain't gonna keep you long, man. Before we get out of here, man, I wanted to hit 2 points really quick, man. With this new regime in the building, new ownership, and the arrival of Jaden Daniels, right? Discuss from your perspective the impact that those two changes have had on this franchise as a whole, the season up until this point, and how that future outlook will look with the pairing of Adam Peters and Jaden Daniels as we go into the future of this Commanders era.
Yeah. So the ownership thing, I think, is easily demonstrated by the trip to Arizona, right? Like that is expensive to move an entire football operation across the country for a week, but it helps you win a game because you take air travel out, you let your guys recover more, especially on a short week. And that is, again, stupid expensive. And Josh Harris didn't blink twice. And so every single way you can get an advantage that your owner can pay for, Josh Harris is willing to pay for. Dan Snyder paid for none of that. He did not care. He would have said he cared, but he didn't care. He was cheap. And, obviously there was a lot of other issues in terms of the atmosphere in the building. And so that is the easiest thing to say for the ownership. And it also is good for a fan experience. Like the stadium is nicer. It's still, it's still the stadium in Landover, but they're working on a new one. And until then, that stadium's going to get nicer and nicer until they knock it down or do whatever they do with it. I think then from an atmosphere standpoint, like they want guys that are super competitive. They want guys that put in the work. They want guys that are competitive. And who better to lead your organization than a quarterback in any direction? But when he hits all of the marks and the fact that they got him in year one, it just leads credence and proof to all the things that they want to do. Because now when you win, people believe. And there will be a certain number of people that would have believed even if this year went rough or went poorly, because Dan would have operated the same way. But when you win, man, like it's just so much easier to create buy-in. It speeds up your process because like free agents are going to want to sign here. There's going to be trade targets that are going to be interested in coming. Like I know the Devontae Adams thing is kind of a, hey, you see what he said on Hot Ones, but I'm like, yeah, but he said that before he realized Jaden Daniels was going to do this. You think he could probably get over it? So like, again, I don't think they should ultimately pull the trigger on the Devontae deal, but it's worth pointing out that I would guess his demeanor would have changed. So I think that proof point early on, like if you think of, hey, every 1 degree you change, then like how far you get out in the journey. And like, if you're 1 degree further, this is people are listening in audio only, then they're not going to get this, but like you wind up the further you get down the path where you were at your starting point, in the direction you went, you're going to wind up further off course, and they are exactly where they want to be. And it just makes it that much easier to stay exactly on the course that they are.
And with that being said, that kind of leads me into what I was just thinking about. I'll be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Commanders going into Ravens this week. The Commanders are 4-1. The Ravens just came off of that overtime win against the Bengals, and they're hyped. We're hyped. How do you see the Commanders faring going into that game?
I think they can compete. I think it's going to be tough. I think the Ravens are going to run the ever-living hell out of the football, and the Commanders are going to have to find ways to stop the run in ways that they haven't so far. Now, they also might dedicate some more resources to that and be like, hey, look, Lamar Jackson is an MVP. Lamar Jackson can play from the pocket. But we'd rather him do that than Derrick Henry to just get the ball and run it 25 times for 250 yards. So I think that is the challenge, right? Because we mentioned like in the Browns game, the Browns, the couple times they did run some of the stuff that Washington struggled with, they got big yardage on it. So it's not like they've solved that problem. The problem for Baltimore is they haven't defended the pass particularly well this year, and Jaden is rolling. So I think that Washington can answer on the offensive end. This is by far their toughest test. Yeah. But I do think there's opportunities for this to be kind of a shootout. And my question is like, if Washington can't stop the run, is the way that Baltimore scores just so demoralizing that Washington can't keep up and it just beats down, and maybe the Ravens find a couple more stops or they get a pick, right, where it's riskier to pass the ball than run it. So if you can have the success running it, it seems like a foolproof plan. But I do think Washington can compete. I don't think Baltimore is like, I just think Washington's playing well. They're a good football team and they're elevating everything through scheme. Baltimore is a good football team that's more talented, is elevating a lot of stuff through scheme, but is perhaps more vulnerable defensively. So we'll see. I just hope they're competitive. Like, I hope that it is not like, hey, let's go in there. We're big and high and mighty. We're 4-1, and then you get your doors blown off and it's a reality check. You also see like that kind of happened to the Bills, and now the Bills are really scuffling. So the good news, I guess, is if they do get their doors blown off, they have Carolina coming back in the next week. So we'll see. But man, if they can beat Baltimore or even compete with Baltimore and then blow out Carolina, I think people are going to believe in a different way.
This Baltimore Ravens game has the potential to be the biggest game of the year. Like, literally, like, let's just say
it also has a moment, like, as much as the Cincinnati was a Star is Born game, like, if they were to win this and Jaden is, even if he's not great, but like makes winning plays, like the first play on the Jaden Daniels Hall of Fame highlight reel, if you will be the touchdown to Terry against Cincinnati. But like, of defining moments of the rookie season, if that's where his career ends up, that's not me, saying that that's going to happen. But if right, this would be one of those games that, like, in his rookie year, he came out on Monday Night Football, had this whatever throw to Terry McLaurin to seal the game. A couple of weeks later, he beat the vaunted rival Baltimore Ravens. Like, you can hear it. Like, that's how the star is born. And now we get to see if it happens. We're 6 days away.
All he has to do is be the leader he's been. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't wish it, because DH and Wally already say I'm the jinx whenever we text during the game. So I don't want to say what possibilities can happen, but as long as he's the leader and he, manage the game, that's all I want. That's all I wanted from him coming into the season, because to be perfectly honest, I wasn't high on anybody of the quarterbacks. I kind of felt they were all kind of there for me. So he's completely exceeded expectations. But I'm not going to keep you much longer, Craig, man. I appreciate your time, brother. And I truly thank you, man. And I don't have a bone to pick with you. Let's just get that. Let's just put that on the record.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We've gotten all the bones have been picked. We are now on good terms.
Hey, man, that's awesome. Craig, listen, brother. Look, man, we appreciate you being on the program. And listen, man, if they keep winning, bro, you got to make a promise to everybody watching right now that you come back to the show.
Hey, I'll come back either way. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I will come back later in the season no matter what. Y'all have my word on that.
Awesome. We love it. And we'll be back next week after a win with the Commanders over the Ravens. Trust me, it's happening. I'm a firm believer. I'm calling it right now. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm picking them. I'm picking us to win next week. And I really think that this game has a potential. You thought the media was loving Jaden Daniels.
Oh my God.
We beat the Ravens. Trust me.
It'll be worse.
It's gonna happen.
It'll be worse.
Beat the Ravens, we're gonna have sponsors.
Oh my God. I can't that 30 seconds at the top of the program, man, it'll be Billy King's Automotive. Here to anybody. If you need your rotors fixed, call Break and Commit. No, I'm joking. Hey, but Craig, we appreciate you being on the show, man. Before we get out of here, man, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get in touch with you, man, and give all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, on YouTube at Craig Hoffman. We got all the clips of the show, both the radio show and Take Command. We're also doing some stuff exclusively on YouTube. Actually, on Monday mornings now, me and my guy Tony Squares are doing what we're calling first impression selection. So we pick the next week's games before, frankly, the week is even over. Monday Night Football hasn't even happened yet, but we pick the next week's game. So you can check all that out on YouTube at Craig Hoffman. And then the radio show, The Hoffman Show, 4 to 7 on the Team 980. Stream it live on YouTube at the Team 980 or on the free. They like me to say free. Remind you, it's free. The Odyssey app. And then other than that, the Take Command podcast. Check it out in all those same places, the Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube at the Team 980.
And make sure you follow this guy on X, man. He dropping gems. We have great discussions about paper, rock, scissors. Man, it's a great time. I'm going to clip that out, and I'm going to put that in. And hopefully when that goes viral, they'll put our names on it. Breaking Command and Craig Hoffman discussing paper, rock, scissors rules. How about that?
Yeah. Hey, internet who's stealing my Jordan Poole interview. The wee quote was me. Then that was a French thing, not anything else.
Should we have to say pause on that? If we say yeah. No,
I think we should end the show. I think it's over.
Okay.
That's that people can think about it.
Right. Hey, we catch you for another episode of Breaking Command, a DND football podcast. It's your man, Darian D.H. Williams, DH on the mic. My partner in crime, D. Mitty. We'll catch you the next week. Peace.